Hello, here we will see how to use scanf and also use pointers. So first let's try to get two strings from the user. So for that we are going to use the scanf function. So I'm going to first, let's say, have two strings str1, sorry, it's a character array, str1, I'm going to restrict it to 50 character limit, and str2 and the 50 character limit, right? And now I'm going to read. First, I'm going to ask the user to enter a string, and then I'm going to scan. So basically, I'm going to ask the user to enter string, and for that, I'm going to give the string name. So I have allocated 50 characters for it to store that string. So I expect the user to limit his input to less than 50 characters. Okay. And then I ask for another string, right? So let's see how this works. Maybe we can just print if I will maybe print it like this. This print the two strings followed by a slash. Okay. Let's now compile and run this program. gcc .cc compile correctly. Now I run. Okay, so I'm going to enter the first string, let's say IIT, and second string, let's say Go. So you can see it's printed correctly. So first string is IIT and second string is Go. It's come out correctly. Now let me type in again, compile. Okay, let me run again, and I'm going to type IIT space Goa here. Did not ask for the next string when I did that. Why? The reason being, when I did this, the first string is taken as IIT and str1 gets IIT, and then the space is assumed as a delimiter, and therefore it stops. The first string stops at IIT and the second string starts from Goa. So str2 becomes Goa. That's why it becomes Goa here. If you don't want, if you also want strings with space, if you want to take strings with space, you need to do a slight modification. So let me do that here. And what I'm typing here is saying that stop only when you see an enter. Okay, that's the change I have made here, and I'm going to compile this. I'm going to run now. It's asking for this. I'm typing in IIT space Goa. Okay, good. So IIT Goa has now gone into str1, and now what about str2? So let me just type Ponda. Right. So now we get str1 is the first string, and Ponda is the second string. But notice that in the second string you can't put space because that's how I've only given percentages. So if I give percentages, it means that you stop the string stops when you see a space. Right. So next thing we can do is the following. We have now these two strings. Why don't we do the following? I write a function which takes in two strings and checks whether they are the same. Okay, I'm going to write what's called as a string compare. Let's say it's going to return strcmp. It's going to return true if the it's going to return true. The function is going to return 1 if the strings are same, and it's going to return 0 if the strings are different. Clear? Right. So for that, I'm going to take two strings, str1, str2. As you've noticed, I have written how to take a pointer two ways, how to declare a pointer two ways. It's character space star str1, and here it's character star space str2. Both are valid notations. That's one reason I gave both of them here. And now, so let's say the main body passes two strings to this function, and I'm going to check this whether they are the same. Now, how do I check whether the two strings are the same? I am going to write, say, int count is equal to 0, or int length is equal to 0, and I'm going to do while str1 of length is not equal to 0. I have to continue this loop while this is not equal to 0. Okay, should I write and? So this is for the first string, right? And I have to write both strings have been finished. Okay. How do I check whether both strings have been finished? Should it be and or? So this says that first string is not 0, right? And I also want the second string is also not 0. So I have to put and. I'm saying that first string is not 0 and the second string is not 0. In that case, notice that I could have used /0 or just write 0. Both are valid. Both are non-zero. If both are non-zero, what I need to check is the following. I need to check whether both point to the same both are same. Okay, and if both are the letter at the position len is not, so len is not the better thing. Let me make it into index. At the index, both the letters are different, then I return 0 to mean that there's something wrong. Otherwise, I just do index plus plus, I increment. And finally, I come here and I check whether I need to check whether just is it that the fact that just one of them has reached 0. If both has reached the index 0, I'm going to return. Both the strings have reached 0. So we reach down after the while loop only if at least one of the strings has reached 0. End of string has been reached at least for one string. If both has reached the end of string, it means we are right. So both the strings are the same, and therefore I return 1. Otherwise, I am going to return 0, which means that at least one of the string hasn't reached end of string, and therefore 1 is bigger than the other, and therefore I have to return 0. Okay, so this should work. Let me see if it works. And I'm going to write if strcmp of str1 comma str2 is equal to 1. I'm going to print it strings same, else I'm going to printf strings different. Okay, let's run this and see. So gcc .cc compiled, I'll run. It's asking for two strings. Let me give it IIT Goa and then IIT strings different, right? Maybe I can just have more printers here. Okay. Now let me enter a different string. I'm going to enter IIT here and IIT here. Their strings are the same. Okay, let's try again. Dot slash a dot out and let me say Honda. Okay, so strings are different. Right. So this is working correctly. Next, let's try to read some integers from the user. I'm going to enter an integer and x, right? And you should see that I have passed to scanf the address of x, and I need to, right? So an address of x is passed. Then I can print that printf so I'll just print that one. So we're just printing that number. Now let me just compile and see. gcc read.cc clear slash a dot out. I'm going to enter some string. Okay, now I need to enter an integer. So I entered 30. Okay, integer entered is 30. Now let me try this again. Enter something minus 25. And, okay, integer entered is minus 25. So this is clear. So we can get an integer. Let me just make it to a float. Let's see. So it's okay. I first compile, clear, gcc read.cc slash a dot out, and I'm first going to enter some string. Now I need to enter a float 23.235. Right, so the float is correctly read. Great. So I have now read some strings and integers and all stored. Okay, I now know how to read strings and read integers and floats from the user. Thank you.